Hello, this is Cece with WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. We are featuring the business showcase because this lady is awesome in what she does. And we're also going to be featuring her in our elite guests because she is really predominant in her field, and we want to make sure that you all understand that. And of course, Going Solo with Cece. So we want to get right on into the show because you all know about me. You know I've been around here for quite a while now, helping you all through the transition of dating and relationships. And we just love doing what we do. And so we're going to move forward into the show. We're going to do a two-parter. So it is actually an hour show. So we're going to break it up into half an hour each segment. And so this way we can get all of these wonderful information to you about dating. So we have with us today, we have Julie Ferman. Welcome, Julie.
Thank you, Cece. Glad to be here.
Oh, it's great having you. Now, Julie, you are you have been a matchmaker. You are just legendary. And you've been a dating guru. Everybody kind of puts you out there. You're in LA. You know what you're doing. And it's just absolutely a joy to have you on the show. But tell us, how did you get into being a matchmaker and doing what you're doing? You've been doing this for like 26 years now, right?
Yeah, what happened is I was a single girl living in St. Louis, and I was working for the Ritz-Carlton Hotel Company, which sounds really glamorous, but when you're in the hotel industry, you have no time. So I was 29.9 years old, and I was looking for marriage and babies and the whole thing, and I wasn't sure I was going to be able to have kids. I'd had some female issues. So I decided, all right, we need to get with the program. We need to get going. And so I hired myself a dating coach, and he helped me get very, very clear about what my critical criteria should be and what should be secondary. So that was the first part, was to really make sure that my picker was right on target. He told me I had a broken picker. So first I cleaned that environment up in my psyche about how to date. And then I knew I needed an action plan. So I went to the local dating service, and the short version of the story is the guy who sold me that membership is the man I'm married to. So first he took my money, of course, because it cost me $1,450 back then to sign up for a 13-month program at this agency. And then I could pick anybody I wanted. It was kind of fun. And men were picking me, and I was picking them. It was video dating back in the world before the internet.
Yeah.
And so you had to keep going back into the office, to pick people. So I went into the office one day and I said, hey, where's that cute guy who took all my money? And I was joking. And his name was Gil, and he came out, he gave me a big hug, and I flirted with him because, the exchange of energy is really important in dating. And he wasn't one of those guys who was a player, just, hey, baby, how you doing? That wasn't his style at all. It's kind of more my style. So I flirted with him, and I said, hey, what's the story with you? Are you single, gay, straight, got a girlfriend? What's your story? And he said, well, I'm not really supposed to ask out my members. And I thought, darn, another great guy that I can't date, because when you're single, it feels that way. It feels like all the great guys are married, or they're gay, or they have a drinking problem, or they're non-committal or something. And so I just flirted with him. And he said, well, I said, what would you do if one of your members asked you out? And he said, well, if she was cute, I'd probably go. I said, come on, let's go have a beer. And in 5 weeks we were engaged, and 5 months later we got married. 2 months after that, we got pregnant with our first child. We have 2 boys.
Wow.
And that poor guy, he was 44, never married, nothing happened for 44 years, and in 1 year, everything happened. So I worked for him, Cece. I worked for him for about 7 years, and then he sold his video dating services. We moved to California, and that's when I launched my own company in 1991. And we've been watching couples get together for all these years, 26, and we have now 1,183 marriages that we know about that have come about since 1990.
Unbelievable. And it's so, what's so cool about it is that you guys are a couple and you do this kind of together, so you can understand, and you've got that relatability, which is so valuable when you're out there dating, when you want to meet someone to be able to form a relationship with. So
I think it's very important for single people out there, if they're going to hire a coach, if they're going to hire a matchmaker, hire somebody who has the life that you want. A
Oh,
lot of the people in the dating industry they got into it because they were single and frustrated, and they thought, well, maybe there's a better way to do this. And so that's one perspective, how to do dating well. But the person that you hire should be somebody who's either doing dating really well,
mm-hmm.
enjoying dating, having a great experience of dating, or it should be somebody who's found relationship and knows what it is to stay in relationship, because it's a whole different thing, finding the guy and then keeping the guy. Two different conversations.
Oh, absolutely. I've often said that with my girlfriends. We talk often about different things, and I do chat nights and things like that. And there's like segments, isn't it? When you start dating, there's segments of coming out of a relationship loss of some sort, and we're all basically there. We're all, if we have any mileage on us at all, we're coming from some sort of a loss, whether it be death or divorce or just a breakup of a relationship that just didn't work. And then that transition into making yourself whole again, ready to start dating, then the actual dating, then the dating within the dating, and then building that relationship. There's so many different segments of that. So I think we need help really from beginning to, continuously. And
All along the way. I'm 26 years into my relationship with Gil, and I'm working with a coach right now on some issues that continually have come up over the years. Once we stop growing, the relationship's going to die. It's like what Woody Allen said, and I think it was Annie Hall. I can't remember what movie it was, but he said this relationship is like a shark. It has to keep going or it dies. And he said, I think what we have around our hands is a dead shark. And if you don't continue to work together and work on yourself, no matter how wonderful this person is, it's going to stop growing and it's going to get stagnant. So the opportunity, I think, whether we're dating or whether we're in a relationship, is when we have that breakdown and when we have those difficult moments, rather than just blaming the other person or whining and bitching and moaning about it, let's take a look and see what is my part here and how can I make an impact on the situation, doing what I can on my side, speaking my truth, asking for what I need on the other side. That's true for dating and relationship.
Yeah, you're so right with that, because so often, I hear about red flags. We see red flags, and then all of a sudden, as soon as we see the red flags, we want to, pull the rug up and move on. But sometimes I wonder if the red flags are not only just flags for ourselves to make ourselves stop to think a little bit about the relationship and what we want, and how we're going to be able to move forward. Because the thing is truly, I'm finding, and what I'm seeing with my friends and myself, is that it's so easy to just say, forget it and move on. But that isn't always what is the good thing for us. I think sometimes we do have to try to figure out how to work it out, right?
Yes. And part of our mission in life is to determine when bad things happen and we see a red flag of one kind or another. Well, okay, what does this red flag mean? The biggest mistake I see single people making in dating is to dismiss each other for little red flags, So I want each person who's paying attention and watching this particular segment to get super clear with yourself about what are your top 5 critical criteria. And don't dismiss anybody. Don't allow any other red flag to stop you from at least considering and pursuing the possibilities. So classic example would be if a woman wants to dismiss a guy because he's 44 and he's never been married. Or if she wants to dismiss a guy because he's a little older than her preference. He's not quite as tall as she would like. He doesn't have hair, or he's wearing a beard, or, when I met Gil, he had a scruffy looking beard. I'd never dated a guy with a beard. I didn't like the whole beard thing. He wore really cheesy looking JCPenney clothes. He was older than he was supposed to be. He wasn't supposed to be a different religion than I was. He wasn't supposed to live in California as opposed to Missouri. There were all these things that were not right. But when I really looked at my deal breaker list, well, okay, he wants marriage and babies. That was super important to me. He had to be somebody I could respect. Respect was big for me. So he had to be up to something in the world that I could get behind. Well, that checked out. All the main things worked out. We needed to share a couple of passions. Now, not all of them. He plays tennis and paddle tennis and all those racket sports. I don't care about all that. I'll go to yoga when he's doing that. But he and I love to hike, and we have taken thousands and thousands of hikes, trips, mountain trips, everything together. So that was one of the things. He needed to be a family-oriented guy. I wanted to frame my life around family, his family, my family, and that checked out. And then what was the other one? I think the other one had to do with I had to feel good when I was in his presence. In other words, feeling comfortable together, that I didn't have to twist myself into a pretzel in order to please him or in order to feel comfortable with him or for him to be comfortable with me. It just felt like home. And those were my top 5. So, okay, he was taller than he was supposed to be. So what? A man who's 6 feet tall is really wasted on me. I'm 5'1.5" now. I lost a half inch. And also, you know, whether he had a beard, that he was Jewish and I wasn't. Well, that was strange. But you know what? For me, it was a great opportunity. I got to learn all about the Jewish traditions and cultures. We choose which ones we wanted to integrate into our lives. All those little things that I was using to dismiss potential suitors or candidates were really not serving me. And you mentioned this earlier. Sometimes we veto the person, dismiss the person, get rid of the person because that's easier than working through our own stuff.
Yeah.
So I like to remind people that relationships are inconvenient by nature.
That's true. That is so true. And it's sometimes it's when you least expect it. And like what you were saying, you know, here you met this gentleman that totally not what you were expecting. And it's just been a blessing, really.
In so many ways. I'm working with a couple right now who are trying to figure out if they have the relationship that they can build a future on. And it's really fun for me and super challenging to help them both get super clear. They've both been single for a very long time. And questions like, well, who should pay for the house? Should he buy it for her? Should they buy it together? They're both in a very strong position financially. And yet the idea in her mind is, well, isn't he supposed to buy the house for me? And maybe not in today's world. You know, when Gil and I got together, he was building a company. I had saved some money for I didn't know what, and I put the down payment on the house, which was very helpful to him back then. It felt a little weird to me, but you know what? He's been paying the mortgage ever since. So
That's pretty good.
Give and take. They're looking outside the box of what traditional relationships should be like.
Yeah, you know, I think that is so right on because in today's world, we're so quickly changing with technology, jobs, everything that seems to be evolving around us. So why should we think everything has to stay the same when we're in a relationship or when we're trying to build a relationship? Why do we think that, you know, women are supposed to have a particular role or a man is supposed to have a particular role? I think it's what works for us as a couple, right? Us individually as a couple, that's what matters.
We have enormous challenges in our modern day culture as a result, a direct result of women's lib and how everything changed for women. Well, it's great. You know, we can go into Bank of America and get a loan all by ourselves without having to have a father or a husband co-sign or something. That felt really good to me when I started my company, that I had that opportunity. But guess what? Privilege comes with responsibility too. I think gone are the days where our money is our money and his money is our money. I mean, it's kind of funny the way it used to be. And so now we get a chance to really look at it and design it. It's very common for women, for example, wherever she is financially, she wants to be with a guy who has the same amount or more, right? That's the way we always had it set up. But here's the problem. In today's world, we've never seen so many women with so many financial resources. Now, whether she got her pile of dough because she earned it herself, or whether she got it from inheriting it from somebody, or whether she got it through divorce, however she got that, you know, pile of dough, she has to take a really good, hard look at how she wants life to be and what's going to be fair for him. If all the girls want to be with a guy who out-earns her, well, a quick run through mathematics will help us determine that there aren't enough of those guys to go around. So if all the girls want the tall guy who's super good looking and he looks like Clooney and he's got a lot of money and he wants to run out and buy you a house, there are not enough of those guys to go around. And the second part of the problem is that that kind of a guy, big, strong, powerful, masculine, we have to remember to ask ourselves, what type of a woman is he looking for?
That's true.
The alpha male is not looking for the alpha female. And we think that he should be. Well, I have all these fabulous women that have got the world by the tail, and they're wondering why the George Clooney types are not hitting on them. Well, in some ways, they're so busy being fabulous that they forget to pay attention to what he needs on his side. So it's not impossible for us to be both, to be accomplished, professional, secure, confident women, career women, and also be feminine and lead with our feminine. It's all about learning when to speak, when not to speak, when to insist, when to request. It's all about that.
Yeah, that, I think you're so right with that. Absolutely. I totally agree with you. And I think today's woman, we tend to be a lot more independent, and men sometimes feel a little bit, inferior about that, but we still have to remember that we are a woman and he is a man. And so just because you might be independent at the workforce or your workplace or what you do and things like that, you still have to remember you're going to have a partner here or a potential partner, and so you have to look at things a little bit differently.
That's true. And a modern day man who's masculine, the kind of man that we all want to be with, he's masculine, competent, capable, trustworthy, provider, protector type. Well, he wants to be needed. He needs to be needed. And so if the message that we're putting out there is, I got this, I got it handled, I don't need any help with anything, that big, strong, powerful, masculine guy, he's going to go somewhere else to a woman who actually allows him to help her put her suitcase up in the overhead bin. The guy who actually allows him to bring his unique gifts to the table. So that's a delicate balancing act that we all, as modern day women, get to learn to do. When to speak, when to not, when to ask for something, when to just live without it. All these kinds of things are choices that we get to make. If we want partnership, that is.
Yeah, it's true. That's true. So you have to think about what you want. But I tell you what, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, let's talk a little bit more about the subject that we're on. And I think it's really about that transition into dating, starting to understand ourselves and what we do want and what we're looking for. So I think that's so important. So we have Julie Ferman with us, and she is a guru here on dating. She's been in the business for about 26 years. This is Cece with Going Solo. You are listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about those type of situations that will certainly help us in dating. So what I want to do is I want to thank the listeners here on WGSN-DB Going Solo Network for joining us each and every week as we talk about some of these fantastic subjects that are going to help us get through both the transition of divorce, dating, and really kind of rebuilding our lives together with a person that I'm hoping that we're going to fall in love with and be happily ever after. And that's what we really want. And if not, if you've chosen in your life that, you're okay with where you're at, you like being single and you want to be single and you just want to kind of live your life fulfilling, that's what we're here for. We're here to help you be able to do that and be comfortable with what you are doing. So that's what it's all about. We're going to come right back now to Julie because I don't want to miss a moment. We're doing a two-part segment. This is our first part, and we're going to talk a little bit more about dating and moving through that. So we have Julie Ferman. She is from Los Angeles. Welcome back, Julie.
There's something happening that's making noise. I'll be right back.
Okay. And this is what happens when we're doing a live show and we're recording a live show. Things just happen. But I want to, while she's doing that, I'm also going to check our volume here because sometimes our volume isn't always what it's supposed to be.
Got it.
Our volume is okay. I turned up our volume a little bit.
All right, good. So my phone was going wild. It was asking me all kinds of things. So I'm back.
No problem at all. So Julie, we're going to come back to you And I want to talk a little bit more. Let me see if I can bring our, here, enter the full screen. There we go. I want to talk to you a little bit more as we went back through, but before we start, I want to be able to share with the listeners about you. And, you know, you've been in the business for 26 years. You're based out of Los Angeles. That's where your matchmaking services is. So tell us a little bit about your actual service itself and how we can contact you. So I want to make sure we don't lose out on that information.
Sure. And I'm so glad you asked, because this company that I built was really designed for everybody. And we have a very low threshold for participation, meaning it's free and it's private to be registered with me. It's just at julieferman.com. And if it's not up on the screen, it's Ferman, julieferman.com. Both men and women of all types, gay, straight, you name it. If you live in Alaska, if you live in Sacramento, doesn't matter. If you're interested in love, romance, dating, doing it well, certainly get registered with us. It's free and private to be registered. So that means when I'm searching for one of my matchmaking clients, or when one of my colleagues calls me and says, hey, Julie, do you have anybody amazing for my new client, whether it's a male or female client? First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to jump right into my database, which we've registered over 30,000 men and women since 2001. So no shortage of great people in our world. And every day I get a call or an email from a colleague somewhere on this big, beautiful earth saying, hey, Julie, do you have anybody in Sydney, Australia for my great new gentleman client? And I do have people in Sydney, Australia through the UK, as long as they speak English, have an email address, and are fully registered with us. And it's not a browsable database. So you can't go to julieferman.com and cruise the chicks or check out the guys. It's not meant to be that way. We didn't need another online dating service. What we needed was a way to tuck people away privately so that when we're searching, we can find them. The people I'm working actively for, those are my matchmaking clients. And my matchmaking programs tend to be between $6,000 and $10,000. It is not inexpensive to hire a matchmaker. And I think you should make that choice very wisely. So if you're thinking about hiring a matchmaker, check in with us. We'll let you know if there's one in your area that might be really good for you. And it's always a function of who you are, the type of person you're looking for, and I'll shoot you straight scoop on whether I think you should hire a matchmaker or not. A lot of people have hired matchmakers and dating agencies that really should have saved that money because they weren't a good candidate for matchmaking or for that particular company. So the other thing I do is the mid-level is I do a lot of coaching consultations, and they're $295 or $495, depending on if it's this way, by Skype or phone, or if it's in person. So I am available to men and women all over the world to do those coaching consultations, and that's usually where we start.
That's great. I tell you, that's really good. I like the idea of being able to put your information into the database, and then if, you know, you never know that
Right.
you come across someone that would be a perfect candidate. Now, how do you go about keeping that information fresh? Is it up to the individual once they put their information in? If they have changes, they need to come back to you?
They can come back and make changes anytime they like, but also we know that people's profile information changes. So if I'm thinking about referring you to one of my gentleman clients, for example, I'm going to check in with you first and say, hey, Cece, is everything still current, or do you want to update your photos? And did you cut your hair, or did you move to Orlando? I'm going to want to know. So
Okay.
I'll always check in with you so that the information we're sharing with him about you is current.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity, and it's really your fees. I have to admit, your fees are very reasonable for what you offer, you know, to be able
People think it should be inexpensive to hire a matchmaker. And in the old days, it was. I started charging the same amount I paid to Gil when I met him, which was around $1,400. But over time, as expenses increased and also the reliability of being able to reach people. It used to be that I could just send an email and it would always be received and people would log in and check it out. Now we've got to call them. We set up every first date. We play concierge and we make sure that both people, I have 2 dates happening today, one over coffee and one over dinner. And I need to make sure both people are going to the right place, that they both confirmed with me, that they both have each other's cell phone numbers. We don't want people on the phone ahead of time giving each other 20 questions. One of the secrets to our success in our matchmaking division is that we really like to preserve the first impression for the face-to-face meeting. So all this texting back and forth and, oh, I don't know, where do you want to go? I don't know, that sounds expensive. I don't like Chinese food. We handle all that ahead of time.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Now, so let me ask you, when you're doing, and I know we're probably jumping the gun, we're talking out of the relationship, but I find this very intriguing. So I do want to ask, but when you're, when they go on the site, are they, once you decide that they are a good match, then you present them. And so I would assume that you show the picture then, right?
Yes.
So that chemistry is going to work.
Yes, it is. Part of our process is that we work with what we call the attraction conundrum. And the attraction conundrum is related to the fact that men and women are very different when it comes to attraction. I've been teaching classes since 1990 to men and women, and I always ask this question. It's very illuminating when I have 100 people in the room. I ask people to close their eyes so they can't see what everybody else is doing. And then I ask them, all right, have you ever met anybody that you were not particularly attracted to? You got to know them, and before you knew it, you found that person to be actually kind of cute, actually kind of dateable, rather adorable, in fact. And when I ask that question, 85% of women will raise their hand. So in other words, it's very common for us. We have an ability to develop attraction over time for a particular guy. And we have a term for it. We call it the Adam Sandler effect.
Okay.
You know what I mean by that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
First time I saw Adam Sandler in a movie, it was 50 First Dates. And I'm like, oh, he's the main guy. But by the end of the movie, any woman who would not run off with that man in that sailboat forever should have her head examined, right?
Absolutely.
But on the other hand, when I ask that question to a room full of men, you won't believe it, but it's totally different. Less than 5% of men have had the experience where they will fall in love with a woman and become highly attracted, sexually attracted, romantically attracted to her, unless he was attracted from the get-go. Mm-hmm. That is the attraction conundrum, because men do not develop attraction over time. If a man is hot for a girl with Kardashian curves and the big old booty and all that, he's never going for the stick skinny Asian chick.
Okay.
He's not. And so the mistake that women are making today is dating like men, and these dating apps with the swiping, you know, mm-hmm. Who are they built by? I go to all the conferences. These apps were built by men who are leading with their visuals because they have to be. Men are wired differently. And think about it, ladies. We want their equipment to work, right? We want the man to want us. So I am never, ever, ever going to be able to attract a man who likes a tall, skinny chick. I'm the short, little, curvy spinner type. That's who I am. That's the type of woman my husband is attracted to. When he sees a woman who's too skinny in his esteem, he's never going to be attracted. So the secret for us girls is we should be paying attention to the men who are already finding us attractive. We got a shot with that guy. We've only got a shot with the guy who thinks we're hot. Now, this is a long-winded answer to your question, which is how do I present people to each other in my matchmaking program? Mm-hmm. I always go to the guy first to make sure first he's available, because if he's not available, if he's dating somebody else, I don't want to try to pull him off course. And then the second thing is he interested in this particular woman, and is he attracted? And if he is, then I will go to her and present him to her. So I like to take out the bad news. The number one thing men find alluring, appealing, and attractive in women, it's a one-word answer. Can you guess what it is? It's not boobs and it's not butts.
Probably maybe smile.
Smile, very close, because the word is confidence, and her confidence shows up in her smile. Mm-hmm. It's not confidence like in the boardroom or in the courtroom, not tough masculine confidence. It's confidence in her femininity. Make sense?
Yeah.
So I like to preserve that, and I like to nurture that and develop that with my female clients, and also with the women in my community who are not yet my clients, because we might refer them to an active search client who's a gentleman. So I don't want to present her with a tease. I don't want to tease her with a guy who might or might not be available, or who might or might not be interested and attracted to her. So it's much more work for me as a matchmaker to work for my female clients, because I have to first find the men who meet the top 5 critical criteria, who are available, and who are hot to meet her. That's a lot of work on my part. Men are easier because I go to them first and I say, okay, I'm thinking about these 3 women for you. What do you think? He tells me who he's interested in. I pitch him to her. Usually the women say yes. They can always choose to say no if they want to, but it's a good idea in my world for the women to say yes. The more introductions we do together, the better I can serve her.
Yeah. You know, it's so funny. We have a show that I do with another gentleman friend of mine, and it's a boy and girl thing. And we have talked about this subject constantly. I can't tell you how many bottles of wine we've gone through talking about this particular subject. And he is so adamant, and I get so upset with him about the chemistry. And he constantly says, it's all about the chemistry. It's all about the chemistry. And I said, no, it has to be more than that. And there again, it's the difference between men and women.
Yes, it is. Yeah. And yes, there has to be a lot more than chemistry, but for men, chemistry is the threshold. Mm-hmm. If that's not there, if he's not attractive, it's not going to develop over time. Now, one little piece of good news is that as a man gets older, his ability to cut a woman some slack about the visuals tends to raise. But if he's dating and he's 55, he still needs to be attracted. If he married somebody when he was 25 and now he's 55 and her body's changed and she's got wrinkles now and she's not as gorgeous as she was back then, the glue that can hold, and very often does hold, that relationship together is the decades of love and the family that they built together. So, but it's unrealistic for us to expect that a guy at 55, 60, 65 years old is going to initiate with a woman that he's not initially attracted to. That's why it's so important for us as women to take really good care of our skin. No guy wants to look across the table at somebody who reminds him of his mother, his grandmother, or even his ex-wife. He has to be attracted. But then body type is super important for us to take care of our physical bodies so that we have a better chance, a far better chance of attracting the kind of men we really want to be with. That's our responsibility.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a point taken. I mean, I've heard that before, and you've actually said it very nicely.
It's not fair.
I know. It's not
fair. It's not fair that we have to be attractive even when we're 55 or 60 years old, and he can be kind of falling apart. But you know what, though? If the guy has money, if he's got a great personality, and if he's got great character, he doesn't have to be super good looking. But there's more responsibility on our part to be physically appealing to men because that's their threshold. It's not fair, and I'm so sorry that it's that way, but I'm not going to pretend that it's any other way.
Yeah, well, you just got to get your foot in the door, right? So what you're saying to ladies is like, come on, in order to get your foot in the door, you got to be able to, they've got to be attracted to you. And so
yes, and it's not about being a different body type than we are. Mm-hmm. I've got women who are too skinny, but they work it well. I've got women who are probably a little extra, they've got an extra 20, 40 pounds, but it's the way she carries herself. It's a smile. It's the way she uses the right colors and she wears the right clothes for her body type. And I've had plenty of women waltz off into the sunset who were not a size 6 or a size 8, but it's the way she carried herself, and she was in touch with her femininity, in touch with her sexuality in a way that was like, come hither, boys, and they did.
Yeah, that's really good. But it is true. It's letting your personality shine through. And so I think when we're even taking pictures and things like that, we have to be able to do that.
Let's talk about pictures. The number one most important thing for a woman to do, guys too, but especially women, is to get great pictures taken. The company I tend to work with nationwide and in Canada also is lookbetteronline.com. And they have photographers reasonably, like, a couple $100. I think they even have packages a little less than that, depending on how many looks you want, how many outfits.
Mm-hmm.
If you're dating, run, don't walk to get great photos. And if you don't want to spend the money, then next time you look cute, next time you look good, you're getting ready for an event or a wedding or whatever, just force yourself to ask a friend to take a bunch of photos. Don't take one, take 20.
Right.
Sitting up, standing up, different angles, smiling, not smiling. You need a couple of really good photos on your profile. One has to be a face shot. All by yourself, not with your friends, not with your kids, not with your dog.
Yeah, true.
Not in front of don't do the selfie, with the bikini or the shirt off in front of the mirror. I don't know who thinks that that's smart and sexy, but don't do it.
It amazes me, absolutely. And then the messy room behind them or whatever.
Really? Come on. This is a one shot, especially if you're a woman, because the guys are looking so quickly and they're looking for that initial attraction. So a smile, clear, forget the sunglasses, forget the hat. I just want your sweet face with your smile, looking happy. And then I absolutely positively have to have a body shot.
Yeah.
Because men have their type and we need to work with it. The guy who married my size 16 girl, no way he was going for the size 6. So she had to have the courage to say, here's who I am, boys. What do you think?
Yeah. And that's so true, because I'm tall. I'm tall, a bigger boned person. I've gotten a little heavy over the years, but not too awful bad. But all through my whole life, because I've been taller, I've been told that, that they're definitely, and I know that there's definitely, attraction for that. And so I've often said, are you a boob man or are you a leg man? Because if you're a leg man, then I'm in, because I'm
you got
tall.
a shot. Yeah, I've got a guy right now who will not consider any woman who's under 5'8". Mm-hmm. He's 6'2". And the height thing is really important because women misunderstand. The average height of an American male is 5'9". Mm-hmm. Average height of an American female is 5'4". I do not like to see women dismissing men because of height. I don't know one relationship that made it or didn't based on how tall the guy was. And then says, well, I'm 5'5", but then I wear my shoes and I got a closet full of shoes. Well, what's more important, your shoes or your love life? Mm-hmm. So, and the guys who are 6 feet, there are only 13% of men that are 6 feet or taller, and only 3% are 6'2" or taller. And since all the girls naturally think they're supposed to be with the taller guy, those guys get spoiled rotten. And honestly, they don't tend to commit as often. Just like the best looking guy in the room, the wealthiest man in the room is usually not the best catch. They're spoiled rotten. They have tons of opportunities. So I suggest that you look on the fringes of your comfort zone. If you've always vetoed any guy who wasn't at least 5'10", well, just at least consider the 5'9" one, see what happens there. Right. If you've always wanted to have a guy who's within 10 miles of where you live, or if you don't like the freeway traffic or whatever the thing might be, consider going 15, 20 miles. Look outside your comfort zone. That's probably where your sweet spot is.
Mm-hmm. That's very true, because I'm 5'8", so I know what you're talking about. My sister is like, she's 5'10", I think. So yeah. So
and especially if you've already had kids. One of the reasons why a lot of women want to date the taller guy is because they don't want their kids to be 5'3" or something, And a guy who's 5'3" is going to have a hard time in life, So they'll tell me, well, I want my kids to have every opportunity. Well, they're going to lose their opportunities altogether if they're going to be too fussy and picky about the stuff that doesn't really matter, especially if you've already had your kids. Stop worrying about how tall the guy is. It doesn't matter. And then also, what was the other thing? About how much money he makes, or which part of town he lives in, or how much education he has. A lot of these things, if you really think about it, are secondary. And when you think of what's on your top 5 list, take a look at Is it because it's something you really need, or is it something that you've been told you should have? Is it culture? Is it your mom? Is it your sister talking in your ear saying, oh, I can't believe you date a bald guy, or I can't believe you date a guy from Long Beach. You should be dating a guy from Beverly Hills. Whatever those things are, it's the stuff we've heard that's keeping us stuck. What do you need? And don't dismiss somebody for something that isn't something that really matters to you. It shouldn't be about what culture tells you. Shouldn't be about what your mom thinks you should have. It's your love life.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I tell you what, we're going to have to end this particular segment of the show because I'm really into it. And so I've got a lot more questions for you, Julie. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and close out the show. We have Julie Ferman with us, and she is a dating guru. She has a matchmaking company that's in Los Angeles. She's been in business for like 26 years. Julie, again, tell us how that we can maybe register if we'd like. If we're single, we'd like to register with you. But how can we go ahead and get a hold of all of the great information that you have for us?
Two ways. You can go straight to the website, which is julieferman.com, and click on register, or you can call us. The number is 805-371-9557. Again, that's 805-371-9557. My assistant, Christine, handles all of our calls, and she's happy to schedule a consultation with the two of us together. Or she'll talk with you on the phone, help you get your profile done, and that's free. So the call with Christine is free. You have to pay to get a consultation with me, but that's because I'm usually working with clients. So everybody's welcome.
That's great. That's wonderful. Well, listen, this is part one of this great show that we're having here today, talking about, dating, being able to move yourself forward, and really, just kind of grasp where you're at in life and what you're looking for in a relationship. So we've got a lot more information. This is part two. I hope that you will join us and stick around for this is part one. I hope you'll join us for part two and stick around for that. We're going to take just a short break. We're going to head right back into part two. If you're not hearing that on the particular broadcast of Going Solo with Cece, just stay tuned. We'll have it on the website, or it'll be playing at a later date. So again, we're having part one and part two with Julie Ferman. She is a legendary matchmaker, a dating guru. It's julieferman.com. So make sure that you connect with her. This is Cece with Going Solo. You are listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. We are going to have to end the show now, but we're going to pick it right back up again. So bye for now. Okay, thanks, Julie.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go ahead and go right into the next segment. This is WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. You are listening to Going Solo with Cece. We are also showcasing both the elite guest appearance today and our business showcase, because Julie Ferman is with us, and she is a matchmaker. She has been around for 26 years. She's been doing this so long and with so many wonderful people that you have established, what did you say, like 11,000 couples?
The couples that have made it to our marriage or cohabitation list are 1,183 couples.
So 1,100. Okay.
Yeah.
183. I thought it was 11,000. Oh my gosh, I know you've done a lot.
I don't have that much energy.
Yeah. Well, who knows? You'll see when you keep doing this for a while longer. You never know. But let's talk a little bit about moving forward into dating. And so we've been talking about the first part of the show. We talked really about, gosh, we had so much good information there. I mean, we kind of skipped around a little bit, but it was great because you gave us a little more insight about matchmaking and what you do in your business and how you go about matchmaking. We talked about the chemistry, which I know Kit, and we talk about on boy and girl thing all the time, the chemistry and how important that is. But what I like so much about what you were saying is the differences of the chemistry equation when it comes to men versus women. And so that was good to be able to understand a little bit more. And then also we talked about, moving forward a little bit into the dating and what our criteria is and what we should maybe think about a little bit more with regards to the 5, topics that are so important within dating. So this segment of the show, we're going to talk a little bit more about kind of building that type of relationship. How do you go about when you are into the dating arena and you come across meeting someone? How do you start building that? And I've been listening more and more to when you go on a dating you've met, you're now on your first date or whatever. How can you get to the next date or to the next level? I mean, how do you keep it going? That type of thing.
Yeah, I think one of the secrets to getting to date number 2 and date number 3, I start getting excited around date number 3, is to practice being curious as opposed to critical. I've been thinking a lot about this distinction lately, and it's so important. As women, we tend to be pretty discerning, and it's in our nature. If you think back not too long ago in the hunter-gatherer era, the men were out, shooting the spears into the deer, bringing dinner home. And what were we doing? We were out in the field with our kids and picking berries and picking mushrooms. We were gathering food for dinner. And we had to know the difference between a good mushroom and a bad mushroom. We had to know the difference between what was a good berry and what berry would kill our tribe. So we're better at grocery shopping than men are typically. We can make these quick distinctions. We have what we call scan vision as opposed to single focus vision. So we're better at going into a pantry and finding something in a hurry. But when we use those powers of discernment and that critical thinking to pick apart a man, it's not sexy. And when a man feels like he's being picked apart, we're criticizing everything that he does, or we notice that, well, we really would like to have a guy who dresses really well, and the guy showed up in, jeans and flip-flops. Are we going to dismiss him because he did that? Very often, that's the kind of feedback I'll get back from people on first dates. Oh, I don't want to see him again. I didn't like the way he dressed. I didn't like his table manners. He picked up his phone once when I was on all these little things that we'll use to dismiss him. And instead, it's a much more powerful way to date if we look at the behavior and we're curious about it. Gee, I wonder why he showed up in jeans and flip-flops. Maybe I'm overdressed according to the way he likes to dress. So rather than just quickly dismissing him, to ask the question and let him know what will make you happy. And the reason the jeans and flip-flop idea came to mind is I ran into that this past weekend. There was a lady, one of my clients, they went on a casual date in Santa Monica, and they were just meeting up for a quick cafe lunch, and he was in the middle of a big day with lots of errands and lots of things he had to do. And one of the things he had to do was help his friend move. So that's why he was dressed casually. And so she took the time to ask him. She said, so I'm curious, first date, jeans and flip-flops. Really? Is this how you're normally dressed? Because next time I'll dress down. She didn't criticize him for it. She asked an open-ended kind of a question. Mm-hmm. Then he told her. And so she didn't just throw the guy away because he showed up in jeans. What she did was she let him know that she found that interesting, curious. And so the next date they went on, he decided to ask her, so how do you want to dress? Should I dress up more for you this time? But they got to the second date because she was curious instead of critical. Make sense?
Right. Well, and also because she was curious, she didn't already make a decision. So often when you are being critical, you've already made that decision in your mind.
That's right. And that's a limiting decision. Mm-hmm. So if somebody's really looking for long-term relationship, lifelong love, marriage, all that good stuff, I want you on 2 first dates a month with qualified candidates. That means you meet his top 5, he meets your top 5, and a couple dates a month is a good pattern to get into because over a year, that's 24 people that are qualified candidates for you. Now, I don't care how you meet these people. I don't care if you stand out on the sidewalk with your thumb out to talk to people.
Holding the sign. I have to meet my quota.
I don't care if you get really good at walking up and chatting people up at the car wash and the coffee shop. I don't care if you host your own parties. By the way, if somebody does want to host their own parties, they can send us an email. It's info@julieferman.com, and we'll send you the blog that we wrote about how to throw your own parties and how to make your own magic in the world, especially if you live in an environment where it's rural or it's a small town community or if you don't really think you can put yourself out there on online dating, maybe you're a doctor or have a high profile kind of job and you don't want to just be out there, let us know and we'll help you work that magic. And the whole secret is, while you're out there flirting, talking to people, put your phone away and use eye contact. It's become a lost art because everybody's looking down at their iPads, down at their phones, and they go to meet people at the coffee shop and you can't meet anybody because there's everybody looking at their phone. So play with it and initiate. Also, people should have calling cards, a little calling card. This is your name. So it would say like CC and maybe your cell phone number, maybe an email address if it doesn't reveal your last name. So that when you see the cute guy at the car wash or the Starbucks, you say, well, it was so fun to chat with you. Here's how to find me. And you give him your card.
That's a great idea.
And then if you're really bold and he's got your card, you can always say, well, how will I ever find you again? And he'll give you his. Or if he doesn't have one, take another card and write on the back of it. And you can say, well, my girlfriends and I plan all these great parties. We'll be sure to invite you if you're single and interested in meeting new people. Well, then you got a chance to find out if he's single or not, didn't you?
Yeah, that's a great idea. I like the idea of the parties too. I do a lot of things like that, gatherings and whatnot. And I find it's a nice, comfortable way of people to meet. And
it's especially a good idea too, if you throw parties like that, even if you only start with 3 or 4 people that you can invite, encourage everybody to bring an opposite sex friend to share so that you have perfect gender balance, because it's always hard to find the guys. It's hard to find the older guys, and it's hard to find the younger women because that's where the demographics are skewed. There are never enough cute young girls under the age of 35 because all the guys who want marriage and babies, they're hoping to meet that girl, right? And the girls don't get serious sometimes until they're 38, 40, 42, and then they call me and say, okay, I'm ready for marriage and babies, but the guy she wants to meet is hoping to meet her younger sister, and that's a big conundrum. So younger women are always hard to find, and then older men, anybody over the age of 40, 45, 50, becomes harder and harder to find those guys. Over the age of 65, there are 3 times as many single women as there are single men available. So the odds are not in our favor. So we got to work a little harder if we're older women or if we're younger guys. That's just demographics, unfortunately.
Well, yeah, I know, because when I do some things, we do have a lot more women than we do men, and it's like and they always say, where are the guys? Where are the guys? But they do come. They will.
And I make it part of my females' responsibility in my community to help me find great guys. We call it recycling for the sisterhood. How I found my best guys is through my best girls. And I have these parties where I say, listen, I want to meet some really wonderful new men in your demographic. So I'm going to invite you to come to this party, but you can only come if you bring a great guy with you whom I don't know yet. And it's amazing to me how aggravated the women get. They get really mad at me and they scream and they yell and they say, well, I want to go and I just don't have anybody to bring. But how could somebody be out there dating for a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years and not have one decent guy in the black book that you haven't burned the bridge with? I want to help people remember that every date has lots of valuable opportunities. Every phone call, every text message, every person you run into. If he's not your guy, don't be mean and rude and ghost him and not respond to him again. Make a friend. Can I tell you a story about how that worked for me?
Yes, definitely.
I was in my 20s and I was at a Chamber of Commerce meeting and this guy comes up to me and he starts flirting with me. He's about my dad's age, okay? And I didn't get rude with him. I just flirted with him and I said, well, I'm 25, I'm ready for marriage and babies, so I'm kind of looking for somebody closer to my own age. Maybe you've got a son, maybe you've got a nephew, maybe you've got a next door neighbor. And he laughed. And he said, you know what, I do have a son. And I'd be delighted if he ended up with somebody like you. So why don't I introduce you to my son? I met his son, great guy, not my guy, but we became friends. We would go to art exhibits together. We would go to singles events together if I didn't want to go by myself. And he finally realized that he's never going to get me. I'm not going to go for him ever. And so he called me up one day and he said, Julie, you know what? You should meet my cousin. And he introduced me to his cousin, who was a totally hot, great guy who I dated for a full year when I lived in Kansas City. Really cool guy that I never would have met had I blown off the old guy or the old guy's son.
Right. That's funny. Yeah. I'm with that. I do believe that. I think that if we're single, if we at least surround ourselves with people that we enjoy and we make friends along the way, it's going to make our lives much more fuller. And so,
I like the way you said that, Cece. You know, I really want people to be enjoying their life and maximizing all of their opportunities in life. I don't have the crystal ball, so I don't know which of the people I get to work with are going to end up in relationship, waltzing off into the sunset, and which of them might be single for years, decades, maybe forever. So the secret is to live a life you can be happy with, and live a life you can be proud of, whether there's a partner in it or not. So yes, do the things you love to do. I was so miserably lonely when I lived in Kansas City. I didn't know anybody. I was in the hotel industry. And so I joined an outdoor club and I met a bunch of wonderful girls. And we became like 4 of us who ran around the country together doing all kinds of camping adventures and cultural adventures. And through the process, we started planning some parties and we met some guys. And you know what? Over time, all 4 of us ended up finding a great guy. A couple of us right away, one of us just now, after 20 years, finds her guy. But during the process, she's been doing an awful lot of wonderful things, and she's never had a bad life, even though it took her 20 years to find her partner.
yeah, I think too that when you're happy, you just radiate, and I think that like the law of attraction, I just think that it just goes out in the universe and it'll come back to you. So rather than being, sad and lonely and depressed, and who wants to be with a person like that? I think that will it will eat you up inside. And so to be able to, embody yourself with goodness and happiness and surround yourself with good friends and people that you enjoy being with. And I have a lot of great guy friends, that are wonderful.
And you should.
Yeah.
It's that philosophy. I think it's important for us to remember not to be focused on ourselves. If you go to Starbucks and you're hoping to maybe bump into somebody, I think you should schedule social outings, which you by yourself, not with your girlfriends, where you go to the sushi bar by yourself, where you sit at the deli counter and have some soup by yourself, and make it your mission to bring smiles to faces all around you. So your mission is not find a guy, find a girl. It's not that. The mission is go on an adventure, a cultural, social adventure, and see what happens. And the same thing with Valentine's Day, my least favorite holiday, which is a strange thing for a matchmaker to say. But what I like to see is on Valentine's Day, I don't like for people to think, well, who's going to love me? Who loves me? Where are my flowers? How many cards are you sending out on Valentine's Day? Yeah. How many of your friends, family members, former loves are you wishing well on Valentine's Day or any Friday, any Saturday? Pick up the phone, bring smiles to faces, which elevates your spirits, which makes you more attractive. So it's all tied in together. If you're focused on other people, making a contribution, then you will be a happy person because you've already taken the focus off of yourself.
Yes, absolutely. Well, we're going to have to take a quick break for this session, but you're so right with all of that. And I just think that what it does is it embraces us and just makes us whole again. And so I think that it's great. And if you meet someone, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for somebody that is whole, somebody that is uplifting and be able to move forward in life. So yeah, I think it's all wonderful, Julie, and I appreciate it. Well, we are listening to Julie Ferman. She is out of Los Angeles. She's a matchmaker, been doing this for 26 years. She's a dating guru and everybody loves her. So a lot of really happy couples that have been very fortunate to have your coaching and some of your skills. And so we thank you for being on the show with us. So we're going to take a quick break. So go out and grab that glass of water or glass of wine or whatever it is that you're drinking and come right back here to us because we've got a lot more that's going to be going on. This is our part 2 with Julie Ferman. And of course, you can reach her on julieferman.com. Her phone number is 805-371-9557. So you can give her a call. We're going to take a quick break. This is Cece with Going Solo. You are listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. And we want to thank you, all of you, for listening to us each and every week and coming back to us and listening to all the really great shows that we have on here on the station. We cover the gamut from relationship recovery through to transition of dating itself, inspirational, and we're moving more into the business now. We're trying to opening up the business sector for you so that you can be enlightened by different products and services and businesses out there that can offer you maybe an opportunity or some products that you haven't thought about. So we're trying to open that up a little bit more for you. And we have our elite guests on every week. They're special leaders that really give of themselves, their time, their energy to be able to help people in their particular walk of life. And so we want to showcase them. We want to honor their spirit of what they do. So please listen to the elite guests because they are just diamonds. They're absolutely diamonds. And so we want to thank them for giving all that they do give us here on WGSN. Okay, so let's get on back to the show. This is Cece with Going Solo. You are listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. We have Julie Ferman with us. She is a dating guru. She's out of Los Angeles. She's been in the business for 26 years. She has matchmake several couples who are just delighted with her services. She does private coaching. So I want you guys to know that, even if you're in the field of looking, you can register with her for free. And then she can also help you with maybe some issues that you might be, discovering along the way of finding yourself into this dating. So welcome back, Julie.
Thank you, Cece. Great to be here.
Yeah, I tell you what, we've had two parts here, and we're in the second part of our show, and just so much information. And I want to thank you so much for all that you've given us, because I've learned a lot myself, and I love the spirit of what you do, and I think it's really fabulous.
Thank you, Cece.
Yeah, it's really great. So now we're moving through the dating, and so we're getting there. And we talked a little bit about starting to build that relationship, being able to get to that. Now, I want to talk to you about sex, because when are we supposed to or not supposed to? I'm an older lady, so come on, what do we do? We want to be appropriate. We want to have our best foot forward, but we don't want to shoot ourselves in the foot either. So what do you think about sex and dating, and what is the appropriate,
I don't like to see a whole lot of rules about it, but I do have one strong suggestion, which is that people keep their clothes on until they know they have a boyfriend or a girlfriend. So sometimes that happens right away. Gil and I were pretty much ready to date just each other by the third time we were together. And then things started heating up, and it was okay because I knew that he was seriously interested in me and that our life trajectory lined up. So I don't think you should sleep with anybody. I actually like to think of it as don't go below the belt, so a little playing around, a little nookie, not a problem. But the reason is we need to guard ourselves against the love hormone, oxytocin. Have you covered that in your shows before? Do people know what oxytocin is?
A little bit. You can talk about it if you'd like.
Sure. It's the love hormone, and it's released when we are having sex. It's even released when we give a 20-minute hug. You can just feel that warmth shooting through your body when you're giving a wonderful hug and receiving a wonderful hug from somebody. Kissing, a little bit more oxytocin, but once there's something called an orgasm happening, let me tell you, flooding through our body is oxytocin. And men have it too, but if we have a gallon full, they have a thimble full, which may explain why he doesn't remember your name the next day. Just another one of those distinctions between men and women, and it's designed on purpose because let's say we got pregnant. Well, it'd be a good idea if we knew who that guy was, the bonding hormone. It also explains why after we have sex, 3 days later, we haven't heard from the guy. We want to attack him, like Fatal Attraction. Go get the bunny, throw him in the pot of water. because we had an expectation that, oh, well, if we shared ourselves in that way, that must mean he loves me and he wants to have me in his life forever.
Mm-hmm.
When if you think about it, biologically, the purpose of a man having sex is to propagate the species. Think about it. I mean, we like to think that we've evolved beyond all of that, but no, we are biological creatures who need to propagate. And sometimes we're having sex with no intention of having children at all, but the desire is still there and the urge is still there. The biology and the instinct is still there. So if we want to do dating well, we need to protect ourselves from crazy emotions flying all over the place. So when in doubt, keep your pants on a little while longer. Keep your pants on until you know he's not seeing anybody else. He doesn't want to see anybody else. You've talked about what relationship means to you, what sex means to you. There's a time in a man's life, there's a time in many women's life too, where casual, playful, adventure dating is okay. And it might actually be recommended. After somebody's been in a relationship for 20 years, they've never had another partner, well, might be a good time to try on some different hats. You got to know what the other person's in it for. I can't control chemistry, that's who's attracted to whom, and I can't control timing. But it's your job as a single person only to sleep with people who have the same purpose. We call it a primary dating purpose. And when should you reveal that? Right off the bat. In your dating profile, say what you're there for. When you're talking to somebody on the phone that you met online, mention what you're here for. I'm interested in long-term relationship. I'm kind of done with all the playing around stuff. So where are you? If you're just casually dating, that's so fine, but maybe not good for us to meet right now. I'm done with casual dating. Let them know that, so that if you do get entwined and you're interested in each other romantically and the chemistry is just off the charts, you at least will know that the other person's on the same page you are. Because if he's just interested in a casual relationship right now, or if his heart is wounded and he hasn't healed yet, it's going to be the wrong time for you to sleep with him. So when in doubt, keep your pants on. How's that for an answer?
Yeah, I think that's really great advice. And I agree with that, because I do think that women, we do tend to get a little bit more involved once we do that, once we connect that way. And so I think it's important before you move forward that, you know, you're exclusive. I mean, I think you should have that conversation about, you know, being exclusive. And
I don't like to see a situation where two people met online and they get carried away on the first or second or third date, and then she's on that same website next week and she sees that he's still actively on that website. Men see the same thing with women. And, you know, the fault is in both of you choosing to take it to that level without having a conversation about monogamy. And that's where a lot of relationships fall apart right there. And they're both mad. I really recommend that you reserve that kind of intimacy for monogamous relationship once you're comfortable enough doing that. And then to be honest about what you really want in a relationship and what sex means to you. It's really the only safe way to date.
Absolutely. You know, I just came to mind when you were talking about it, is that some people, they don't like to have that conversation. They're worried about having that type of conversation because they're afraid that that's going to be too forthcoming and that might scare away the potential partner, you know, that you're thinking maybe more seriously or whatever. But the reality is if you can't talk like that, if you're not at the point where you can actually have that kind of conversation, then you shouldn't be ready to have sex.
I agree. I think it's pretty bizarre that many times as human beings, we're more comfortable taking our clothes off and doing the wild thing than we are having a grown-up conversation about what that is. Now, the secret is for a lot of women who've learned that they need to preserve that intimacy for later. Don't be a cold fish and don't be chintzy. Demonstrate affection, demonstrate generosity. One of the ways you can extend courtship is to participate in paying for things, to have him over for dinner, bring the picnic. There's this whole notion of, well, the guy should always pay for everything. A guy's going to be pretty uncomfortable paying for everything if it's 10 dates down the road and still nothing has really happened in the sex department, that's just, he feels like he's making a big investment and he's not seeing it. I don't want to give the impression that men are paying for sex. It's not that, but he needs to see your generosity demonstrated as well. So are you giving him a back rub? Are you giving him a foot rub? Are you making sure that he knows that you find him attractive and that it just takes a little time before you feel comfortable enough to share yourself in that way? If he's really serious about relationship and if he really loves and respects who you are, he will wait. There's a couple that's just getting married in September, and he had to wait 1.5 years because before she felt comfortable sleeping with him. And the reason was because he was still on paper with another woman. He had been separated for 10 years, and they had a lot of properties together, businesses together, and they had made the determination that they wouldn't get divorced until one or the other found somebody else that they wanted to marry, and then they would carve everything up. So she held to her boundary, and she did not have sex with him. But let me tell you, they were so beautifully intimate with each other. And it's just that one thing that they didn't do, but they did plenty of other things. And so he had to wait for her, and she had to wait for him. And they did it in a beautiful, generous way. She didn't become a prude because she wasn't going to sleep with them. She wasn't a prude at all. He got all kinds of goodies along the way, but she held her boundary very firmly, and he respected that.
Yeah, that's true. You can be intimate without being, all the way, without having sex all the way. You can be extremely intimate. And I think a lot of times women miss that. They miss the part that you can be that way without being, and it just kind of keeps it going, right? You want to keep it, going. My mother used to say, well, I let him catch me. What she like? She used to say something like, well, your dad would chase me until I allowed him to catch me, or something like that. So you have to keep that going.
Along the way, it's really, men need our attention. They crave it. It's like we bring spice to life for them. Alison Armstrong, my affiliate colleague, is an incredible relationship guru. She says that we bring the sparkle to men's lives. And so we need to share that sparkle with them, share our humor, share our fun, adventurous spirits. And that's how we keep him engaged. If everybody should know what their love languages are. And Gary Chapman's the one who wrote the book on the 5 love languages. I
love that book. Yeah.
Very, very good. So if we expect somebody to show love to us in a way that's not natural for them, we're setting them up for failure. We're setting ourselves up for failure. So it's our responsibility to know. Like for me, I need acts of service more than gifts. I broke my leg a couple years ago, and my husband, he's not the guy who will bring me diamonds, and he doesn't bring me flowers. He's not romantic. He doesn't tell me how beautiful I am. He doesn't do any of that. But he took care of me for 2 months. I didn't open the refrigerator. He's an acts of service guy, which matters to me. He needs quality time. If I don't give him enough time, if I spend too much time at my desk or with my clients or with my girlfriends, he feels unloved. So I make it my mission to make sure that I have focused time where we're just together. Every morning we have our coffee together. We're going to a meeting together tonight. I make him dinner. That stuff matters to him. So please know your love languages and how to ask for what it is that makes you happy. You guys want to know that.
Oh, that's great advice. That's absolutely wonderful advice. Well, we're going to have to wind down here on the show, and I know we've got so much information, and you've been so gracious about giving us all this time, and I do appreciate it. If you had one thing to say to our listeners as we're closing the show, is there something that you would like to share?
Yes, I would like for each person to have a plan in mind, I call it a romance marketing plan, and we're available to help you build your romance marketing plan, that it's a strategy. And we think we should have strategies for finding a house, finding a job, getting into the right school, but we think love should just happen naturally. And if it is, great, I'm thrilled for you. But probably if you're listening right now, it hasn't happened yet for you. So I want you to strategically place yourself where you can be found and then play with your eyes and play with your smile. So whether that means registering with me at julieferman.com, or whether that means working your magic at the car wash and Starbucks, going to meetup groups, going to singles events, creating singles organizations to get yourself out there, put yourself in a place where you can be found by the type of people you want to be with, and you'll have a better experience of going through dating.
Oh, that's great advice. Absolutely wonderful advice. You know, I guess if you really want to make it happen, you have to put a plan together. It can't be just randomly, you know. I mean, there's so many things going on in the world today, and so we just can't think it's going to just happen. So we have to kind of make a plan and work it. You know, make a plan.
I want to see both things. I want to see people having a plan, like forcing them to engage with a matchmaker or get online, but then also working their magic out there in the world, because I want them on 2 first dates with qualified candidates every month, and I don't care how it happens. If you need help putting your plan together, that's why we're here. Send us an email, info@julieferman.com, or call us 805-371-9557, and we will help you do that.
Oh, that's great. You know, I think with all of this advice, you know, all of this information that you've given us, the marketing, doing the romance marketing plan, doing all of that, all it's going to do is enlighten us. It's going to bring our vibration higher. It's going to make us happier. It's going to put us in a really great plane. And so I think everything that you've mentioned today is really going to make our lives, embrace our lives, and make it a lot better for us. So as singles, I think it's awesome to be able to have you on the show and listen to all this wonderful advice. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you, Cece. It's a delight. You're a great interviewer, and glad we connected.
Oh, it's wonderful. Well, listen, we're going to have to end the show, and I hate to do that so much because I love being here with you each and every week. And so this is Cece with Going Solo. We just listened to Julie Ferman. Again, you can reach her on julieferman.com. Her phone number is 805-371-9557. So make sure you call her and get registered on her site. So I think it would be a lot of fun to do that for sure. And take her advice on the romance marketing plan. Give her a call and try to talk to her about that and arrange that plan for you and enlighten your life. That's what it's all about. So we want you to be happy, and we want you to move forward being single and enjoying your life. And that's just really what it is all about for sure. So thank you, Julie.
Thank you, Cece. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, it's been great. This is Cece with Going Solo. You are listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. This is the part 2 of Julie Ferman's show. So please, I hope that if you've missed the first part, you will listen to it. It was a fantastic first part. You can get it right on WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. We have showcased the Elite Guest Leadership Showcase and also the Business Showcase, and Cece, Going Solo with Cece. So thank you so much. We appreciate it. Bye for now, Julie.
Bye.
Bye.